Welcome back, everybody. Our next guest stood in the Senate and worked for years to confirm the people who are our justices on the Supreme Court today. Mike Davis is now the founder and president of the Article 3 Project, of course, the former chief counsel for nominations at the Senate Judiciary Committee. Mike, great to have you back on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
We had an extraordinary moment this morning where police stopped a man with many weapons, an intent to injure and harm Brett Kavanaugh, one of the associate justices. You've been worried about this moment for a long time, both the rhetoric and the lack of security that goes along with this. Your assessment of what we learned this morning about that incident in Maryland?
Well, fortunately, the Supreme Court justices have security. They're working to increase security. They've substantially increased security since this Roe versus Wade draft decision leaked out illegally by the Supreme Court. So if anyone thinks that they can show up to a Supreme Court justice's home and try to assassinate them, they will end up either in prison or dead. And so that should be made very clear. But this is part of a dangerous pattern that we have seen going back to 2020, when Senator Chuck Schumer went to the Supreme Court steps and threatened Justice Kavanaugh and Justice Gorsuch by name on a pending abortion case. This is continued, where the Biden Justice Department, Attorney General Merrick Garland and the Biden Justice Department are refusing to enforce federal law 18 U.S.C. 1507 that makes it a crime to show up to a federal judge's home for the purposes of trying to intimidate them on a pending case. This is very dangerous. We just saw Judge Esther Salas, an Obama appointee in New Jersey. Her 20-year-old son, Daniel, was murdered, and her husband was seriously wounded by a deranged lunatic who showed up to her house. This is a deadly game when you dox Supreme Court justices or any federal judge, any judge anywhere. And the Attorney General has been totally derelict in his duty by not prosecuting these people, and it has led to this.
Yeah, and Mike, I have to think, I look at this from a cultural perspective. The judiciary, whether it was Supreme Court or federal judges, appellate judges, whatever the case may be, it used to be sacrosanct. There used to be a level of reverence for judges and members of the judiciary. But it seems like, I know politics and maybe the judiciary is downstream of culture too, because that sacrosanct attitude, that reverence, has just melted away from all facets of society, including this.
Yeah, well, the Democrat Party is controlled by the abortion industry. They're the ones who fund Democrat campaigns and causes, and there's a lot of money at stake right now with Roe versus Wade. If abortion actually has to be decided by our elected representatives in our states as opposed to 5 unelected judges, there's a lot of money that could go away for the abortion industry. And the abortion industry is pushing Democrat politicians to do everything they can to try to intimidate and cow sitting Supreme Court justices while they're trying to decide this case.
It's extraordinary. It's exactly what our founding fathers did not want to happen in a country where free speech is valued otherwise, but we certainly don't want that intimidation. Tomorrow night, there's going to be a primetime hearing by the House January 6th committee. They're going to try to say that Donald Trump tried to incite violence. You just mentioned that statement that Senate Leader Schumer made. We have a clip of that. I want to play that and get your reaction to the very words he chose to use that day. Let's run that clip real quickly.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind and you will pay the price.
When you hear that, you will pay the price. What does an average person take from that? That seems like a call to action.
Yeah, Senator Schumer is normalizing threats against federal judges. The Senate passed a bill 100-0 to increase security. Nancy Pelosi and the House Democrats have refused for a month now to do anything about that. It's a 100-0 bill in the Senate simply to increase security for Supreme Court justices and their families. They're refusing to act. You have the Biden White House press secretary, then Jen Psaki, encouraging these protests at the homes. You have Democrat politicians saying that they want people at these judges' homes protesting. What we saw early this morning, when a guy showed up, this mid-20s guy showed up from California with zip ties and weapons and pepper spray. It looked like he was going to assassinate Justice Kavanaugh and maybe tie up his family. That is a natural consequence of these threats that we're seeing from these politicians.
Yeah. And speaking of natural consequences, I think a lot of the crime that we see in big cities across America are a result of DAs who refuse to charge and prosecute criminals. And as we saw last night in San Francisco, my goodness, what an earthquake in California. Chesa Boudin recalled. Do you expect to see that in some of these other deep blue electorates across America?
I mean, if you think about that, he's too woke for San Francisco. So, I mean, if you're that woke and San Francisco's throwing you out by like 60% of the recall vote, you're in big trouble. I think these liberals in these big cities are finally getting mugged by reality, and I think they're finally waking up to the fact that maybe we should have people who are committing crimes in jail instead of going after the police with defund the police and bail reform, where we let people out of jail immediately after they commit a crime and then they go on to commit another crime. I think the American people over the last 2 years, even Democrats in these blue cities, are starting to get mugged by reality.
Yeah, that is right. Well, Mike Davis, you always give us a good, healthy dose of factual reality. That's why we love you having the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.